Live stream.
We're
Okay,
live.
now we're live.
Now we're live. Got it. We're live. All right.
Woo-hoo.
Now let's play the intro and we'll be right back.
It's time for Red Salad Review with your hosts, Wayne Moon, Greg Narlow, and Lou Max.
Hello and welcome to Rat Salad Review. Today we are joined by Marc. It's Marc Lopes, right?
Yes.
Pronouncing it? All right. Yes, I got it. I wasn't sure. Thank God. But yes, Marc is from the band's Ross the Boss, and he's also from a new band, Let Us Pray, right?
Yep.
And then you're in another band, a band
Yeah.
that's had a long history, Metal Church. Just became the new Metal Church singer.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations on that. Now let's talk about a little bit about Ross the Boss. How long have you known Ross?
As long as I've been in the band.
Really?
6
Okay.
years. Yep.
Did you like play shows with him, like with another band you ran at the time, or you just like happened to?
I was filling in for he did some shows down in Long Island.
Okay.
And like his best friend has a band, and I had met him at a Death Angel show. Kind of a weird intertwining story. But anyways, he asked me to come fill in for some shows, and they were opening for Ross. And at the time I was kind of like just really, I was playing with a lot of cover bands and stuff and just kind of getting into, I was just happy to play at the time, So I was like, oh, Ross the Boss. I'm a huge Manowar fan, but I never saw Manowar with Ross. So I figured, why not? I'll go down there and jam out some metal tunes with some cool people and new different audience. And I get to see Ross play because I never get to see it. So it was kind of like a win-win situation, So then I did the show, and then I got a phone call from his friend, and they were asking if I would be interested possibly at, to go on tour, and if I had my passport and if I knew Manowar songs. And I said yes to everything, but I didn't have a passport, and I didn't really know, I knew the Manowar songs listening, but I didn't know how to play them.
Right.
Fake it till you make it type of deal. I didn't think I was going to get the gig, and then next thing you know, it was like, here, we're going, you got the gig, we're going on tour. Oh, cool. I better learn these songs, get my passport.
Oh, that's all right. How many bands fake it till they make it nowadays? Nikki Sixx. Who said that?
Who's
I'm
that
sorry.
one, right?
It's too soon, Lou. Too soon.
That's a different
never
one,
too
soon.
What do you think about that whole Motley Crue controversy going on now with nobody's playing live? I mean,
Dude,
you're in
what?
a band. I mean,
Too soon, Wayne.
It's funny. When you're that rich, who cares? Really? Think about it. I mean, they're so rich. They're legends.
Right.
Who cares at this point? You know what I mean? It's like ridiculous. They were supposed to retire and really retire. They lied.
Yeah,
I saw Mitch LaFon post up. I think it was Mitch LaFon post
that
something
was
funny.
the greatest meme I ever read.
They said they were going to retire from playing music, and really they did, because they're not playing now. They're just playing.
Well, it's true. But it's funny because honestly, and I'm not trying to diss anybody, but dude, Vince Neil sounds horrible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And he's out of shape, and he's just not really playing his part. To be honest, I'd rather hear recording. It was like, I remember we played with Kiss at Barcelona Rock Fest, and Paul Stanley was, I love Kiss, again, it was just
it's a painful
awful.
subject. We know,
it was a god awful, and I was just like, and I get it. I understand, all the circumstances, but when they said, oh, well, they're using tracks now, I'm like, well, that's fine. I go, because you know why? I'm going to see the show. It's the show. You know what I mean? It's different. I don't know. Are you going to see the show? Are you going to see him play live? Half the time what happens is, which is funny because this is what happens nowadays. You go see a band. Well, I mean, they sounded good, but they don't sound like the record. There's no production. There's no nothing. And it's like, then they go and they play the tracks and oh my God, they're not playing for real. And it's like, they want you to sound perfect, but not play the tracks. But the only way to sound like the record for the most part is to either have the great production and the money to back up the sound, or they do tracks. I mean, a lot of them, I hate to bust the bubbles of a lot of people, but a lot of the bands out there, especially now, ones that you don't think of playing the tracks, because I've seen it, they're playing the tracks. Yeah. And there's a reason they sound perfect. Right. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, what's those bands? I mean?
And it happens, and it's a lot of bands that like people are out there going, oh my God, they're the greatest thing live. And I'm like,
Wayne, take it easy. We're not in the business of doxing. We're just in the business of making fun of some people. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, but it's true. So I'm only saying that because you can't say one without the other. It is what it is. And then unfortunately, what happens is, you got these bands, it's about making money, right? So the business part of it's like, you got to get out on the road and you have to play 26 shows, no days off. Well, especially for a singer, some of the stuff that these people got to do ain't happening. You know what I mean? And I get it. Sometimes they have to have some assistance in order to do those shows. And hey, I feel, hey, if I could play the tracks, man, I'd be like, let's do it.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword.
A hell of a lot easier. You just have to go out there and move around,
Yeah.
I get it.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's like, having the backup tracks on computer, the same computer that you're able to, stage lighting on and effects and things like that, it cuts down on so much overhead for the bands. And, and Wayne and I play music together, and we completely understand the plight of bands nowadays. Logistics are ridiculous. Gas prices to travel on the road is ridiculous. You're living on a $20 a week stipend, I think it is. I don't think that's gone up with inflation, Wayne. So, right. It's like, you got to cut the bands out there that are working hard a break, and I don't think there's really any shame if you're playing to a backup track, as long as like you're actually singing live, or you're playing your instrument live. That's just there to, look, anytime you go on stage, you end up getting, all right, you got 35 minutes on stage. Well, that helps you guys stay on time. You don't go into overtime. You don't have to pay union fees. It helps, but I could see why some people haven't adapted with it. But but you cut your vocals awesome live from the video footage that we've seen. So.
Thanks. Yeah, but again, think about it like this. It's like, the demand, the vocal demand of the stuff that I have to play is ridiculous. If I wasn't in good shape and I didn't take care of myself the way that I do, I wouldn't be able to do it. You know what I mean? Because like, even for instance, like these, we get the tour coming up and it's like 6 shows in a row, a day off, 5 days in a row, a day off. And it's like, I go, what are you guys trying to kill me? I'm not 20, you know what I mean? And unfortunately it's like, well, if we take an extra day off, and I'm like, yeah, well, don't worry about me or nothing. That's cool. I'm like, and then if I get sick and I had to cancel a show like I did on one of the tour last year, I've never had to cancel a show in my life, but I got so fucking sick. I literally couldn't say anything. I was like, oh my God. And I had to take, they played the show and had people come up and sing songs and people were pissed. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. We couldn't afford to take the show off, so they just made it a karaoke night.
Wow.
People that paid the money to go to do it weren't very happy, but those are kind of weird scenarios that can be put in, whereas, where a track thing comes into play for some of these bands, especially the bigger ones. Imagine a stadium show, like a Metallica show, canceling it. No. You know what I mean? The amount of money just to be there is so much that you can't cancel it. So, there's all kinds of different circumstances, from the smaller bands all the way to the up bands, I mean, I get it, but you have to look at it from all sides, you know. But I mean, what they're arguing about sounds like a bunch of petty stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like, it's basically, it's like, for instance, you know, McMars is saying, well, you know, I'm playing, I can play. But I mean, if everything's being tracked and it's going to sound, it's probably not going to sound right if something's tracked and then this is live and there's all kinds of different technical aspects of it. You know, then it's just like, dude, you know, just go with the flow. You know, and then they tell them to go with the flow, and then they're like, then they turn around and go, oh, he wasn't playing anyways because he sucks. What do you mean? You know what I mean? So, you know, again, I mean, just as far as that part goes, you know, but I mean, there's so many people that do it nowadays. I mean, gosh, I mean, look at the stuff on TV, all these shows that people go on, they're all tracked, and I mean, because they get 2 seconds to freaking set up. You know, there's too many different circumstances. I mean, hey, you can go all the way to recording. I mean, cheapest, the way that we record now. I mean, you know, you have a budget of $20, go make a record. Oh, okay. You know, that's why everybody's doing it themselves. And, you know, there's cut and paste because we don't have time because the record was due last week. And I mean, there's so many different aspects. Do we wish it was like the old days? Oh my God. So do we wish, you know, hey, don't worry about it. Go in the studio and make the record till it's perfect. Oh, well, you know, it costs $750,000 because, you know, I went in one day and I wasn't feeling right. I went home, paid for the whole day for the studio, and that's how it used to be. Right, you can't do that no more. You know what I mean? Oh, your voice isn't good. Go, don't worry about it. We'll auto-tune it.
Auto-tune, yeah.
You know, so I mean, you know, it's a whole different playing field now. I mean, you know, these records that we've done with Ross and even the Metal Church record, I will say this, I can say this is that we were talking about, like, I wish we all could get in the same room to make a record, you know, but logistically and financially, you can't do that anymore like we used to be able to do. You know, you could just jam and write, you know, people got to work, people got to do this, you know what I mean? And so it's a different creative process now. You know what I mean? And so you can see how everything from the live to making the record is just fundamentally changed, you know, but in one aspect, it's also hyper creative because you have to kind of go into a different place to create than you would in the room. Like personally, I love being able, like, would Let Us Pray, my band, like, it's 2 of us. That's it.
Really? Okay.
That's it. We play and write everything.
Wow.
And we never, I don't even see my partner. We talk on the phone like once a week or something. And when we throw stuff at each other, but the creative process of that is like, it's wild. It's like quantum computing with us. You know what I mean? It's a whole different thing. I think if me and him sat in a room together, we would just stare at each other. Be like, yeah, dude, you watched the new episode of Mandalorian or whatever, you know. But
don't spoil it. I haven't watched season 3 yet.
Well, it's terrible.
Everybody dies.
Except the last episode that was on today, which was episode 7 of 8. Yeah, it's not a good season. It's definitely not like season 2.
No, that was classic.
Yeah, they dropped some major ball, but it's, you know, Disney prying, man, the agenda driven Disney, you know, I don't know what the hell they're doing with all the good stuff, you know.
Greg, I think you're on mute.
No.
There you go. Now I can
he's just like, dude, you guys.
I see you talking, and then I couldn't hear you at all. Nice.
Anyways, I totally went off to the left field.
That's all right.
Anyways,
that's all good.
Anyway, now I know why Mark wasn't responding to me, but to go back point just to what you were saying about fan expectation and all that. Now, I always use Boston as an example because I saw them back in 2004, and I don't know if they were augmented or not, but Brad Delp, the whole band sounded amazing, just like
I saw that tour.
Even years and years later. But, you know, like you were saying, for example, people getting older and shit like that, it really does enhance the show. Like Blackie Lawless took a ton of crap for it with this recent Wasp 40th anniversary, but he hasn't played live in years and he's not in the best shape. And he's right. You know, people aren't going to be thrilled if they come to the show and the course is don't sound all that great. And that's all he was using them on, was to fill out the choruses. And I'd rather see someone do that than go see Don Dokken that sounds like a 60-year-old barfly whispering into a microphone.
Greg, you give him too much credit. He's pushing 70, but I digress.
I opened up for Dokken a couple of times. Oh boy. Oh God.
Not anymore. That was the last time now.
Oh man. But no, you're right. You're right about that, and it's it's true. You know what I mean? You're like, it'd be like, Boston was a perfect example. You go see Boston, and if you don't hear that 15-part harmony section coming out, you're like, you're gonna know. I mean, I'm gonna guess, because I know a couple of the dudes in the band currently, and they sing, and they really play, but that's why there's like 9 people on stage. You know what I mean? So they can do that, and to that credit, I'll give them, they definitely do that, but not all bands can do that. I mean, look, come on, look at a band like Powerwolf, or a band like Sabaton with the 15-piece orchestra and the 90-piece chorus going on. Yeah, that's real. We all know it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And no one cares. It's cool. It's great. I'd rather hear it. You know what I mean? We're there for the show. You know what I mean? If you can't do it, and like you said, like some of these guys are getting older and they really can't do it, like the Dokken thing. Oof. I know, and bless his soul, and no disrespect to Don, but like, my buddy Chris plays with them. He plays bass, and
you know Chris McCarville.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
He does a lot of the singing now, because he's a freaking amazing singer. Thank goodness. You know what I mean? That's probably, he's like, he really picks up the slack, but I mean, that's a little rough. You know what I mean? You get a point, he does sound like a 60-year-old barfly type of thing. So you rather go that, but it's real, or you let somebody go and do, some tracking to enhance it, to make the experience more enjoyable on the ears,
It's funny that we were just talking about Boston, because I just did a covers night out in Suffolk County with bunch of musicians from the Long Island area, and one of the songs they covered was Foreplay Long Time. It took 9 people on stage to nail that song just right. I kid you not.
Yeah,
but it sounded amazing, even with the audience doing the hand claps during the
that's great.
During the breakdown. It was great.
Yeah, Boston's one of those bands for me. Like I think, oh God, that first record's probably one of the greatest records of all time. It's like one of those things where you listen to, you're like, to think that was their demo.
Right.
Yeah, recorded in a basement. It was the first indie album.
Yeah, it was the first indie album. Well, a lot of people don't realize it. A lot of people don't know that the Metal Church record, the first one, was the same thing.
Oh, really?
That was their demo. They did it in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and it became their first release. Yeah.
Wow.
I love
yeah, well,
you
know what? You can't sometimes you just can't, like I dealt in Tom Schultz said, they couldn't capture that energy again. You know what I mean? It was magic. You can't, just like these Van Halen albums, the early day Van Halen albums, it's like the magic's there. You know what I mean? You can't recapture these things. That's why when bands try to re-record stuff like Manowar, let's re-record Kings of Metal.
We don't have to discuss that.
I'm like, I remember the first time I heard that, I was offended. I was like, I remember calling up one of my best friends going, what the fuck is this? I'm like, what is this? I'm like, they'd be like, we're re-recording Number of the Beast. What the fuck, man? You don't do that. Just leave it alone, I don't get it. I mean, oh, well, we're going to get the rights back. Well, no one's going to play that version of
right, no.
Anyway.
What rights? You're blowing your load on something no one gives a shit about.
Exactly. Oh, it's perfect. No, that's why it sucks, because their imperfections is what make these records so amazing.
Yeah. That's like when Twisted Sister redid Stay Hungry, because they didn't like the guitar sound. But you know what? The new guitar sound was worse than the first one. So what sense that make?
Yes, do stop it. The rawness of that album. It's like,
it worked.
Yeah. Hey, it's, there's how many albums we listen to now, like, the production's like, oh, I wish they would have, did it better. But, the energy's still there. You know, if you could remix it, maybe that would be cool. But a lot of times, you know, they can't get permission from the original labels and all this other crap and nonsense, you know. Me and Kurt were talking about these, like, oh, I wish I could remix The Dark, and I wish I could remix, you know, this album and that album, but they, you know, getting the master tapes for stuff like that's not easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but because, you know, you're not going to re-record it. Is the energy's there, the vibe's there, you know, then maybe the production at the time, you know, definitely wasn't up to par, but then it was. But now you're like, ooh, you know, that snare drum sounds terrible, or something, you know, crazy like that, you know. And these guys are like, oh, well, we'll record it. It's going to be great with modern production. No, dude, you're like 40 years older. You don't have any drive. You're not mad anymore. You're not on coke and you're not all fucked up. You know, whatever the case may be. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you joined Ross the Boss and you had to learn like all the old Manowar songs, is there a song that you've found where like Eric, you couldn't like duplicate what Eric Adams did at all or anything? He's like one of my top favorite vocalists. No,
dude, Eric Adams is he's a legend, dude. You know, it's the same thing with all, like, you know, David Wayne and Meg Howe and all these dudes. It's like, dude, they are who they are because there's an identity to them, and no one's gonna replicate it. You know, so it's you know, you might have some people that have like a, you know, like a similar sound, like Ripper when he joined Priest. You know, he had some of the Halford thing vibes going on, but he wasn't Halford. He's amazing, sounds great doing the stuff, but it wasn't Halford. You know what I mean? Same thing with like Todd doing Queensryche. Sounds a lot like Jeff, but he's not Jeff. You know what I mean? Even though it does the thing, same thing. I mean, we could sing the notes, and we try to bring the spirit to these tunes, and we do the best of you know, to our ability to you know, stay true to it. But you can't try to imitate it. It's a waste of time because you know, it was done to perfection, and it is what it is because of who they are. You know, and I always was explaining it to somebody the other day, and this gets kind of deeper, but you know, the shape of a skull, the shape of your torso, you know, the way that you might take the breath, or all these technical things, you can't duplicate. That's not your body. You know, and believe it or not, that's what matters. Just like people's, like, when they play guitar, there's certain ways, there's certain players that are identifiable, the whether they maybe their finger size, weird sounds like that. It really is, but it is true. And you know, especially with a voice, it's so nuanced, you know, that it's kind of pointless to do it. And you know, and the thing is I always said I didn't join Manowar. You know what I mean? I'm playing with Ross. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's different. You know, with the Metal Church, you know, thank goodness that you know, I remember talking to Kurt so in-depthly before I even joined, and he was like, I don't want you to imitate or try to be like anybody else. And that was a relief. You know, obviously doing the back catalog, you know, thankfully I always vibed with David Wayne a lot because I was always into that kind of vocal, so that made it a little bit better for me to do those things. You know, but I'm not David Wayne, you know what I mean? And it's not going to sound like David Wayne. It's going to have some character, but it's not going to, you know, it'll be my version of those tunes. And that was like, you know, that's a big thing with doing the Manowar stuff. It was like, I had to really adapt it to what worked for me, you know, hitting all the money shots, obviously. But, you know, to me, it was more important to make sure that the spirit and the attitude was there. You know, I go out there, and when I'm singing Hail and Kill, I really mean it. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, there ain't no joke. I go out there, I feel like I'm going to war. And, you know, you really can't do those songs smiling and and pretending that you're mad. I mean, I'm mad.
Well, you could. It would just look really awkward.
But in a happy mood.
But, you know, talking about, like, you know, the different singers and inflection, and me as a guitar player, you know, the reason why I grew up appreciating Ross as a kid when he was in Manowar, and the reason why Metal Church meant as much to me as a kid growing up. I mean, I remember being 6 years old, seeing Watch the Children Pray on MTV, and just, you know, hearing how both songwriters, both guitar players put their phrasing, they put their touch to it, similar to what a vocalist does when they're in the studio. You know, cutting their thing down, you know, their phrasing, they're putting their imprint on that song. Like, you know, take, for example, Alex Skolnick, great technical guitar player. And he could probably do a crazy solo over a song like Watch the Children Play, but Pray. Sorry, Watch the Children Pray. Tongue tied there. But, Kurt added his touch to that song. He added his phrasing, which is what made that song special and stick out. The same way Ross does that. And, I mean, it's got to be great to work with two complete visionaries of their type of songwriting prowess. So
yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think one of for me to date, the most surreal moment for me was when we played Bloodstock with KK Downing.
That must have been insane.
I remember we're playing Green Man Alicia, and I'm and I'm up there and I look over and it's Ross, and then I look on this side and it's KK Downing, and I'm like, what is this? This isn't real life, man. 15-year-old Mark, it would be like, you're never, this isn't, I think that every time that something happens, like, especially now, I'm like 15-year-old Mark listening to Metal Church for the first time, going, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. Now I'm in it. And it's like, what?
you'd have
doing covers of a Ton of Bricks and battle hymns, and all this stuff. And now I'm in bands with the dudes that wrote this stuff. It's just crazy.
You'd have the Taylor Swift sense of wonder.
Yeah, totally. Totally. It is.
Yes, I did that.
And I mean, I'm a fan more than anything. You know what I mean? Because I came into this later in life. So I've been a fan always. And I think I talk to Kurt, like I always ask him all these questions, and I'll just do it to Ross too for a long time, and total fan nerdo questions like, oh, like this and that, and forgetting that, like, oh, are we gonna go play in 10 minutes? We're laughing, and it's still the same way, even playing we get to go, we play all these festivals and stuff, and all my favorite bands are on it, and I always, every time we get a festival, I'm like, who's on it? Everybody's like everybody in the business is pretty much just over it. You know what I mean? And I come in and I'm fucking just so psyched. Oh my God, fucking Halloween's playing. Oh my God. We played Barcelona Rock Fest last year, and I met King Diamond for the first time, and I fucking almost had a heart attack. I was like dying inside. I was like, he was super cool. And because I had done two covers of King Diamond covers, and one of them was with Andy LaRock.
Oh, really?
And I had never met Andy LaRock other than on the internet, like emailing when we were doing it. And he was at that show we were playing after Merciful Fate, and Andy LaRock was there, and I went to go, I finally got to meet him in person, and he was like, you met the King, right? And I'm like, no. And he goes, oh, come here. And I'm like, and he's like, oh, and then the next thing, me and King are talking about, like, monitors and ear monitors, and he's getting full makeup, and he's got his kid, and I'm like, dude, what is this? I walked away. I was on cloud 9. I took my picture with him, and everyone's like, dude, what's up? I'm like, I just met the King. I'm like, everyone's like looking at me like, whatever, dude. And I'm like, nah, man, that's the fucking coolest shit ever.
Yeah. That's cool.
So the fan never dies in me. I'm totally that teenager all the time when it comes to this stuff.
Well, we have a King Diamond show, and we're going to be having you on that at some point.
Oh, nice.
We do have some people in the chat though. One of them said he discovered you through CJ Ortiz. I don't know who CJ Ortiz is.
Oh, yeah, the Metal Motivation. Really, really good friend of mine. Yep.
Oh, man. Very cool. And our friend Eric Adams is a friend of our show here. Does Ross the Boss call you the general manager?
Did you? No.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
And he wants to know, are you the deacon in Metal Church? He's got some stupid questions here.
No.
He's an idiot. That's why he doesn't come on our show anymore.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I asked him, did the insane asylum let him out in time for Greek Easter? Is that why he's on our message board right now?
He's also a wrestler, so he's probably got CRT or CET, CRT. What's that?
CTE.
CTE. Yeah.
CTE. CTT.
Yeah, CRT, CET.
I think you're seeing too many TTs. All right, stop that.
I think so. Greg, were you trying to say anything? Because I noticed you don't have your headphones. That's why you keep getting cut out.
Yeah, No, I wasn't.
All right.
He was waiting for us to shut up, Wayne. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah.
What? No, I was just saying, oh yeah, that's cool, and responding to some of what Mark said. But it would be cool to see the Brave back in the set list. I think you'd sound really neat with your own take on that one.
The Brave. Oh, whoa, gee, wow! Isn't that a bonus track?
I think it was specifically for one of the Metal Massacre compilations. Either that or the Decline of Western Civilization 2 soundtrack. One of those two.
Huh. I'll have to look that up. You never know. But I'm good for having these guys dig out the obscure stuff. You know, that was definitely been a topic of discussion. I know that we got a couple of obscure songs that we're doing for the first part of this tour. You know, we're gonna keep, you know, we'll always keep adding and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. I'll have to look into that. I forgot all about that song. Kurt probably will be like, what's that?
Last time I saw them live when Mike, before he passed, they were out here at a small club. It was real cool. I got to talk to Kurt for a little bit, but I brought up Big Guns from the original European press of the first album. The first look on his face is, wow, you remember that?
Yeah.
Greg goes deep.
That's cool. Wow. Yeah. It's funny. My band Let Us Pray opened up for Metal Church and Doro on that tour here. That's crazy.
Oh, was that the one with Images of Eden as the opening act?
No, not here.
Okay. All right. So they probably just joined on the East Coast then.
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast in New England, New Bedford area.
Oh, all right.
Here, and we opened for them. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, maybe they did play. Maybe they were after us. Yeah, they were on that. Yeah, we went on first and then they played. Yeah, I remember
they just secured the opening spot on the Wasp European tour. So
cool.
And they're friends of the show. So hi guys, have a safe trip.
Awesome.
I'd like to ask you a question because you had on the Let Us Pray album, Virtues of the Vicious, you have two of my favorite guitar players of the early 2000s on there. You had John from Shadows Fall, who's now in Anthrax, and rest in peace, Ollie Herbert of All That Remains. How was it that you were able to secure them for spots on the album? I mean, John is just an amazing guitarist, and every time I've seen him with Shadows Fall, he just melts faces.
Yeah, I've been friends with John for years. I play with technically we still do, but we haven't done it in a while. We had an 80s tribute band that we would do on our drunken time off. It was called Cobra Kai, and we would play everything from Poison to Pantera. It was pretty funny. But once I stopped drinking, it kind of lost its luster. But I mean, I've been friends with those guys for a long time and still am. So, you know, asking John to do it was a no-brainer. And that's funny because my guitar player in Let Us Pray, John, plays drums in John's new original band, Living Records. So it's always a small circle of people. And Ollie, I got to know him because he used to come see, I had a band called Metal 101 and we would do metal covers. And we were playing up in the Springfield, Weston Mass area. And he came out to one of the shows and, you know, we were playing Halloween and King Diamond and he just lost his mind. And I became friends with him like that. We were supposed to do a project together. But in it, you know, we jammed a couple of times and then he came out and I went out and recorded him for that tune. And then unfortunately, you know, we never got to do the project because he, you know, passed away. So.
Yeah.
I appreciate you mentioning the band Halloween. It's my favorite band. And usually I get shit for mentioning them on all the shows that we're always doing. So right. I'm glad that you finally mentioned it. Because they hate that they're my favorite band.
I don't hate it. It's just you made us listen to all 18 albums in a row. Oh, sorry, Mark.
Wow. He had to go through Pink Bubbles Go Ape.
I have a soft spot for Pink Bubbles, Go Ape, and Chameleon, but it took time. Damn it! It took
There
2
is some
years.
good songs on there. I remember, like, was a song called Giants on there or something?
That's on Chameleon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's
Yeah,
very cool.
that's a touchy one. There's some weird stuff on there. Yeah, I love Halloween. They, they're purveyors of true power metal. You know what I mean?
They are.
So,
I'm glad.
I have a huge argument with Ross all the time because he he goes, I invented power metal. I'm like, no, you didn't. I'm like, you didn't fucking invent power metal, dude. He goes, well, that's what I'm like, well, they're lying. You didn't invent power metal. I go, you could say you invented like Viking metal, the epic metal type of thing, but you did not invent power metal. Yeah. And he was like, he gets all upset. I'm like, I'm just being honest, dude. Don't say it because you didn't. All right. So here's a trivia question. I want to see if you guys will agree with this answer. The very first power metal song is
I don't know.
Fast as a Shark.
Oh.
Except.
Oh, really? I would
kind
of give the edge. I would kind of give the Iggy to Neon Nights from Black Sabbath, maybe, or maybe even Dio era Rainbow. Kill the King.
Still not Fast as a Shark.
Greg is good at
That's always
answering
more of a
things like
thrash
this.
song to me, more than a power metal song. But
that's where the power metal, speed metal line was drawn. Like for instance, Dragon Force is power metal. Well, they're kind of more like speed metal,
right?
Speed metal. Maybe too many genres. But I'm just saying, I really felt, and I always thought that Fast as a Shark was the beginning of what the template for power metal would kind of follow. You know what I mean? Neon Nights definitely has that thing, but it didn't have that aggression of the Fast as a Shark machine, So,
Greg, what do you say? Because you had your hands up, Greg. I know you got an answer.
Can you hear me?
I can hear
you. Yes. Going deep. Go.
Stargazer, Rainbow. I mean, it's got the epic, got the different parts. It's got medieval shit, and Richie does a shredding solo in it. Yep. That's the beginning of it to me.
Yep. Yeah, I won't argue with you on that one. Absolutely. As far as like genre goes, for sure. I think for me, what I mean by that when I'm talking about it is like the the double bass and the aggressive, straightforward power metal type thing, like a Halloween. That's what we're talking about, like the Halloween, like the early Walls of Jericho stuff,
To be honest with you, looking at it from that perspective, and I know US power metal is different from Euro power metal, but Queen of the Reich, Queen Shrek.
What about
Fast as a Shock was before that.
When was Exciter from Judas Priest?
Yeah, that too. Exciter.
Which song?
Oh, Exciter from Judas Priest.
76, 77 that time.
Was Exciter before Fast as a Shock? Fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That was it then. I'm wrong. It's Exciter. It would be Exciter. Shit. Well, good. I learned something there. We're going to all about that. Either way, those were the early ones, right?
And and Halloween was influenced by both of those bands. So
exactly. Either way, they're all great. So that's funny.
Show how different things can influence people differently.
Right.
Halloween and Exciter is also what made Venom decide to get together.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Now you mentioned about bands having all these crazy genres. Let Us Pray.
Benedictus qui veni nomine. Oh, sorry, wrong.
I'm reading the bio and the dark melodic power thrash. All right.
That was a label that made us come up with something. We came up with a better version of it. We call it ADHD metal. Because I have that severely, and me and John, we always laugh because we're both totally spazzes, and the music reflects. If you wanted to tap into how we think, that's what it is. That's how we think. That's why when I go and write with Ross or I'm writing with Kurt, I really have to pull it in.
Right.
You know what I mean? I kind of really have to study what we're doing, they have a certain parameter where with Let Us Pray, there is no parameter. We just go for it, you know? And if you think this album was crazy, once you hear the new one, we added even more wackiness. Well, I mean,
Really?
have you ever heard of a band called Igor?
Sounds familiar.
I with the triple G, triple G-O-R. That's ADHD metal. That shit's crazy. That's a little bit more, even more crazier than us, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, about, you know, that I like too many things. And I always said that if I was going to have my own band, that I wouldn't limit myself to anything, because I like, you know, I love super heavy stuff. Like one of my favorite bands is Manol Nakath. And like, you know, it's total grindcore, and I fucking, you know, I love Darkane. I love industrial stuff. I love really extreme stuff, but I also like super melodic stuff like Boston and, you know, old, it can sound totally wimpy, but you know, old Firehouse, or, you know, the 80s lush vocals and stuff. And then, you know, and everything in between. And I was like, well, why can't I do all that together? And that's exactly what we do. And that's probably why the album just goes over a lot of people's heads, because it really does encompass a lot of territory. And within one song, sometimes we can cover 5 different genres.
Yeah, I turned one of them on. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Because you're growling in one part, and then you get really melodic in the chorus. And I like that. It's really cool, because actually when me and Lou did our band together, one of the songs was kind of similar to that. And I never really worked on music like that before. It's usually just like the power metal type stuff. But then on that one song, we started going crazy, kind of like your stuff is doing. And I like it, you know, like you said, it's everything you listen to is in that one song, kind of, you know.
I make you earn your cut, Wayne.
Yeah, I know.
And it's cool, and it makes you think. It challenges you in a little bit, in a way, as a listener. And that's one of the reasons I get frustrated with a lot of new bands and really enjoyed the Let Us Pray record, is because you take chances. You mix it up and you throw things together in an interesting way. You're not just trying to make a thrash album that sounds like an 80s Megadeth thrash album. And that drives about a lot of newer bands.
I agree. And it's too bad. Like, you know, and I'm probably going to get a massive amount of crap for this, but I really don't care. You know, I am a closet case. I love Avenged Sevenfold, and everybody can say what they want about them. And I will tell you this, those guys are ultra talented. They take chances. Except for that one album where they did copy every band that they ever loved, but they did it on purpose. So I give them credit for that when they at least admitted it. But I mean, you know, especially when they first came out, who sounded like them? No one. I mean, they had a really unique style, and that's not easy to do, you know. And, you know, a lot of metal fans didn't like the way they looked. And I was like, that's really freaking, you know, they look emo. Dude, I don't care. Who cares? The guy's shredding like Ingve, you know what I mean? And, you know, whatever the case may be. But I'm just saying, to talk about it, you know, and their new albums coming out, and everyone's like, oh, they're all finished. I'm like, dude, that new song's just crazy. I love it, because they went totally the other direction, where they could have played it safe. You know, is that a career killer? I don't know. But I mean, another band, Powerwolf, right? Every fucking album sounds the same. I love them. But I'm like, I put on the new record the other day, and I was like, fuck, I knew every song where it was going to go before the song came on.
Yeah, because they all follow the same thing. Yeah.
I was like, I get, you know, they have a thing, and that's cool. And that's what they do. A lot of bands do that. Sabaton does it. All these bands do that. That's their thing. They're playing sold out stadium shows, and that's great. But, you know, as a listener, you know, a couple of songs on the record are like, yeah, that's cool. Where they might have did something a little bit different. You know, where the label is like, oh, you can do a couple of songs your own, but we need another one of these and another one of these and another one of these. Hey, it's a business. I get it. But, you know, if you don't have to really do that, you know, then why not? You know, if you want to, you know, it is art, and it's supposed to be art, you know, and you know, what was the great thing about when Queensryche first came out? No album was the same.
Right. Yeah.
You know, for better or worse, for what everybody want to say, like, I thought Promised Land was amazing, but it came out after Empire, and Empire was so big that everybody was looking for Jet City Woman, and they didn't get it because Promised Land was more of like a thinking person's record, like Rageful Order was, which I think to this day, Rageful Order is probably one of the most unique albums that has never been duplicated ever by anybody, not even themselves. And that album, to this day, I can listen to it and find something new, and I'm like, fuck. It's just boom. It's so, and think about 1986, what they were doing. There was no Mac laptops where you could do everything at home. All that shit was to get those sounds. You know, I worked with Neil Kernan for a little bit, and I talked a lot to him about that record and some of the stuff that they did to get some of those sounds. Just like you talk about time consuming and being in the studio, you know, and over the years, I got to know the guys in Queensryche, and, you know, they'll tell you straight out that was like massively drug induced party time days when they were in Europe, when they did that album. But you could see the expansiveness of the thought process that went into it. You know what I mean? For whatever it's worth, you know, no one does that. Like no one goes beyond the realm of what they already know these days. And that's what really kind of sucks. You know what I mean? And even though, I mean, you know, there's a lot of great things and there's a lot of great players, but the writing is missing, you know, that to take a chance writing. And, you know, that's why I find, you know, I laugh when my dad's got the old classic rock station on. I'm like rediscovering, like listening to like Supertramp and going, wow, this is amazing. Or hearing like old ELO and going, holy Christ. I'm like, this stuff is just way, I mean, to think that was mainstream at one time. Wow, we really got dumb.
Exactly.
You know?
I started listening to them too lately. I've been getting to ELO a lot lately too, and it's like, how do I miss all this stuff? You know, it's just
I like you know, one thing I really miss is I really vibe on the storyteller singers, like Billy Joel and another closet case favorite of mine, Barry Manilow.
Oh, jeez.
You know, I laugh. Everyone's like, really? You know, and they always think Coco Cabana or something. I'm like, well, you know, that's not really one of my favorite ones. But you go back to his older stuff, the song Magic. Dude, the beginning of that song is so creepy. You would never think it was Barry Manilow. It's like a funeral march, you know? But I mean, think about that. It's Barry Manilow writing Mandy, and then he goes and writes Magic, which sounds like a horror song. There was no one told him he couldn't do it. You know what I mean? I think that's what the point I'm trying to get is there were no boundaries. And, you know, I always said that if I was going to do something of my own, which is Let Us Pray, that I was going to do the same thing. That's why we released that single, Deadlight Sunset. And everyone's like, oh my God, it sounds nothing like their other stuff. And I'm like, well, of course it doesn't.
That's the point.
You know, that's the point. You know, I mean, I wanted to write a creepy soundtrack type of song that was industrial vibe. And that's what I did. You know, like, oh, it's not heavy like the other shit. I'm like, well, go listen to the rest of the other record. I don't know. You know, it doesn't mean I'm not going to write another freaking Murder Thy Maker or something, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I just don't really, you know, I'm not really into that. You know, that's why I find sometimes writing some stuff with like Ross or writing with Metal Church thing is I have to keep to a certain thing. And I found it was funny, but like, you know, working with the Metal Church record, like, you know, that's a certain thing, you know, there's a sound. And, you know, I studied everything I could about that. And, you know, I talked to Kurt every day and, you know, we experimented. We tried a bunch of different things and they were cool, but at the end of the day, it's not really Metal Church. And then we were like, okay, well then let's go back and do something else. But we tried it. You know what I mean? And where Ross, we could get away with some stuff here and there because it was his own thing. It wasn't Manowar, you know. And it was funny because when we did By Blood Sworn, they wanted the record, the label wanted it to be like a Manowar type thing. So we were like, all right, well, let's do this. And the first single, I remember going, dude, this is total blood of my enemies on purpose. And I remember I deliberately ripped off some of the melodies from Call to Arms from Manowar because I was like, well, they want it to sound like Manowar. Let's do it. Right. And then we released it and they're like, oh, it sounds like Manowar. Well, no kidding. That's what we wanted. That's what you wanted it to sound like.
Now, did you ever get any shit from?
I don't care anymore.
Did you ever get any shit from Joey DeMaio or anything?
Oh, F him.
I remember there was it was a long time ago. How do I say this? There was somebody on the inside of something saying that, you know, Joey's not very happy about something, and, you know, don't be surprised if you hear from him. I'm like, he can call me all he fucking wants. I go, he ain't gonna scare me. If he gives me any shit, I'll just knock his other fucking glass eye out.
Wait a minute, what? Glass eye?
You didn't know he has a glass eye?
No.
I found out.
Well, you do now.
Yeah.
I just thought he was normally cockeyed, but whatever.
Yeah, it's a glass eye. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, now it was just a bunch of nonsense anyways, you know. I have nothing against anybody, you know, whatever. I don't even know the guy. Who cares, you know? All I know is I freaking love old Manowar, and I love Eric Adams to this day. And I remember, actually, it was weird. One of his really good friends came to a Ross show in Syracuse, and I didn't know like who he was until way after, and we were talking, and I found out that he was one of Eric's best friends. And I was like, you really, please tell him, you know, I am nothing but a huge fan and have nothing but love and respect. And, you know, I just, hopefully I can do these songs some kind of justice, you know, and you know, to know that, you know, I am first and foremost just an admirer of his work. And, you know, I couldn't say enough more things, you know. I hope the message got to him, you know what I mean? That's one person I've never got to meet, and I would love to meet him, you know. I hope I get to, you know, at least him, you know what I mean? One day.
Yeah, definitely. Now I know we can't talk too much about Metal Church, but you can talk a little bit. Did you ever get to know Mike Howe at all before he passed away?
I met him once.
Yeah. Wow.
And we were playing Bloodstock, doing the KK thing. Metal Church was playing, and I've been friends with Stet for years because he's from the Cape here in Massachusetts. Oh, okay. So I've known him since he was in Run 21, and so I've known him forever. And then I got to know Steve, the bass player, because he was a fan of some of the stuff that I was doing, and he had come out to see me play with Ross a couple of times when we were out in Washington. So I got to kind of know him from that. And we were playing, and I got their sound guy because he's Ross's sound guy. So I hooked them up with that. So, you know, kind of got to know everybody through that. And we were going, both of us were playing Bloodstock, and we happened to just be on the same flights to go to England the same day. And we all hung out on the plane. And I met Mike there. Mike was very quiet. You know, he was really, you know, quiet. Kurt was quiet. I ended up hanging out with Steve and Kurt. I mean, Steve Stead. And so that's really like the only time I got to meet him, you know. And then when we opened up for him, when I was in Let Us Pray, you know, I just got to say what's up. And that was about it. You know, I never really got to talk to him any more than that, you know.
Yeah. So how did you actually, was there like some kind of what am I trying to say here? Oh my God! Help me, Lou.
Audition.
The
audition. Thank you. I have
COVID
brain right now. Yes.
The impetus for joining them, was it sort of they approached you, or was it that you heard that maybe they were looking for someone and?
No, they approached me.
They approached you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I had been asked to do a fill-in at one point because there was a possibility of some stuff going down where Mike wasn't going to be able to play. So they asked me if I would be interested if that were the case. And of course I said yes at the time. And, but that was, you know, way prior to the events that happened. And then, so, I mean, I guess I was already, you know, I was already in their mind if they were going to, do something after that, the tragic thing that happened. Right. I didn't think the band was going to carry on. You know, I had no idea. You know, once I heard that, I was like,
Yeah, because they went through so many singers for so many years, So it's I didn't think they would continue either,
No.
But I'm glad to see that they didn't. I'm glad that they see that they got
here
you.
we are.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm glad they pick you for a vocalist because I think you're going to fit in very well. The new song's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
So I can't wait to hear the rest of it. Did you have any input on the lyrics or anything, or is that
I wrote everything?
You wrote everything. All right, wow, cool.
It's the first time Kurt's ever let anybody do that, which was pretty wild.
Wow,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I remember. I could say this. I remember, like part of the audition, beside doing some of the old stuff, was to write tunes, obviously. And I kept one song, two songs, and I kept going, he's gonna, because I knew he's one of the main writers. Keep going. going. I'm like, I'm gonna, at one point he's gonna say stop. And I was kind of relieved because it was a lot of work, and he was like, no, you could keep writing. I'm like, okay. So yeah, so that was cool. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
great. I love.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the new song. I can't talk about the new song, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
song's out. So
the new song was written while I was in the band because they had a bunch of material already written, but it didn't fit me,
right?
Because it wasn't heavy. It's like this, and I mean, I'm a way more aggressive singer in that aspect. And, one of my big things was like, if we're going to do this, we have to come out fucking slamming, I was like, we have to come out hitting harder than ever because, you're coming out of a bad, a really big tragedy. And, you gotta come out and be like, here we are type of thing, and I was a big advocator of, we got to come out and freaking just slam this step down everybody's throats. And luckily everybody agreed, and that's where we are. So that was, that's how that worked out. And, I'm very happy with that. And we got another one coming out. Another one's coming out in like in a couple of weeks. So you'll get another one soon.
Very cool.
As heavy as that.
And I actually just pre-ordered the album the other day because you guys are all autographing it. I saw you had a picture up. You were signing all the albums. So,
dude, I really did. There's 500 of those fucking things. I was cracking up. I'm like, oh, this will be cool. And I'm like, I get through like 10, 20 of them. And I work from home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's gonna take me fucking 5 years to finish. And the label's like, you finished yet? I'm like, dude. Let me do that. I'd be working. I do graphic design and video work at home, and like I would take a break and I'd sign 20, and then I go back to work and I'd sign 50, and it was like never ending, man. It was like these big boxes, and I was like, by the end of it, I was like, I had to go. I went through like 5 pens. First world problems, I call it, but it was really funny. And like they're like, oh, can you take pictures, of you signing the stuff? And I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, okay, and he says, oh, like this. And like, you got all these other bands, they're all like dressed up fancy with their hats on, like all rock and roll. I'm like, hey, yeah, watch this. I'm out on my bed signing it with my freaking, my freaking baby Yoda fucking stuffed animal. I'm like, here's the real deal right here. There's no glamorizing this.
That's
so funny. Yeah, so that was pretty fun.
That's
so
cool.
Yeah, it's real autograph.
Yeah, good. And when is that? It's May 26th, right?
Yeah,
it comes out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then we get the Ross thing coming out April 28th, which is the compilation. The best of the compilation or whatever they're calling it. Yeah. It's his first 4 albums on AFM, and this is the first day of our tour, and I designed that whole packaging, which was pretty cool.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and I love it. I was just excited to get the album to put it on my wall. And it was cool because Ross picked all the songs, and I was super excited because on the 2 albums that I'm on, I wrote I mean, I wrote all the vocals for all of them, but on 3 of the songs, me and John from Let Us Pray wrote with Ross.
Oh, wow.
So that was cool. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a little, that was really cool. It was nice to have that on there too. So
nice.
It's exciting.
And then you said you also had the Let Us Pray, another album's coming out. Is that
we're
done or?
I mean, it's funny. We had a whole other record ready to roll before the whole world shut down. And then when it happened, we're all like, I'm like, oh, we might as well get, let's get this record done. So we started to kind of get into it. And then all of a sudden we started writing. That was a bad idea. Because what happened is then we're like, oh my God, this song's amazing. We got to put this on the record. Oh my God, this song's amazing. We got to put it on the record. Next thing you know is we have a second album. Then what happened is I got, I started getting involved. We were doing other. I went back out on the road and I was working a lot. And then the Metal Church thing started happening. Well, no one knew. John was probably the only person on the planet that knew right away because I had to tell him what was going on because we were always working together. Next thing you know, we had a third album, and we hadn't even. So what happened is we basically we made a deal because we do all the records ourselves. We play everything. I record everything. I produce it, arrange it, and everything. That's why they take so long. And then obviously we change shit all the time because we're mad scientists. But what happened is we made a deal. We're like, all right, here's the deal. We're going to keep recording until we have no more songs, which is never going to happen. So what we did was the first 7, 8, 9, 10 songs that are done, that's the record. So that's basically, so that's what we're doing right now is we got a bunch of these tunes done and I have to put the vocals down, and I haven't had a chance to put the vocals down because I've been doing all these other things. So that's where we're at with that. But musically, we have 3 albums and they're already all thought out. Like I already have concept for the whole, it's a pretty wild thing. And none of them sound the same, which is pretty fucking whack. It's
cool. I like that.
Because like what happened was we kind of go through these, we go through these phases, like some of the stuff that we had proposed that we were going to do for the second record was super, super heavy thrash, like really fast, crazy stuff. And then we kind of slowed it down a little bit. And John was really starting, like he was really getting into like melodic, a lot more melodic stuff. So we started kind of getting into that. And then I started, and I love gear, and I always loved industrial electronic stuff. So I started kind of experimenting with that. And then we started getting into that. And I'm like, the world isn't ready for this yet. So we'll do this first, and then that'll be the third album. And who knows what'll happen by then. So it's always constant creation thing for us where there's no shortage of material, which is it's very rare with bands because they're always writing for the next record, but we're 4 albums ahead.
You're way ahead of the.
So we're like a record label's dream.
So gotta say something, Lou?
No, I'm good. I mean, that's
sorry.
It's just
going off on a tangent.
Okay. Can I say it, Wayne?
Go ahead, Lou. Sorry.
It's just Mark, everything that you're saying right now.
Yeah.
So Wayne and I, our band Severed Angel, our first album is dropping May 2nd. We have a second album in the can. We're already writing the third one.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome.
We're trying to keep up with you.
Do it.
Yeah. So this is our competition, Wayne. Marc Lopes of Metal Church.
We gotta hurry up and get the third album done.
Get that third album done, man. Yeah.
I need inspiration.
Yeah.
Hey,
no,
now
dude,
you got it.
It's great. I like it. Like I said, when you don't have any limitations, it's not hard to do.
Yeah.
And what's wild is, I mean, I have like folders full of like unfinished stuff. Okay. And it'll be like, what mood are we in today? Like I'll be like, I might have just like heard, I was just listening to the new Unknown Knoxville album, and I'm feeling like in that mode, and I'll go back and I'll go, oh my God, I remember this one tune we had, and there was only like maybe 3 riffs that I really liked off of it. But what if I take those riffs and loop them and I start that whole thing. So I took this one song that wasn't even going to be anything. I made it this thing, and I'll turn it into John, and he'll be like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it would be like, I'll grab things of his that he wasn't even conceiving, and that's what the beauty of how we work off of each other, because he'll play something and I'll throw it back at him in a way that he never imagined that riff to be, and then that triggers him off to do something else. So that's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with that. It's like a total, think tank for us to do that stuff.
Yeah,
it sounds very exciting to do. So
that's cool. Before we head out of here, Greg, got anything else?
No, not really. I could just, since Mark was a big fan too, I could tell him my little metal church joke, which I think I told you guys before.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Kurt might get a laugh out of this too, but we all know the title track to The Dark. Well, I had a cassette of it for years and years and years, so I never knew what the actual lyrics were. So until I was about 22, I thought the chorus line to that was not "I'm sitting and I'm thinking," but "I'm a chicken on a mission," and it made sense to me because it was about fear.
I thought it was I'm a chicken, I'm gonna picking, I'm looking in, I'm licking now.
I don't know what to say to any of this.
I'm looking in, I'm licking. I'm like, what the fuck is he saying? So I hear you. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, you're not alone, Greg.
Yeah.
The other part of that I was going to say, which is cool about both Severed Angel and then Let Us Praise, that was one of the things I loved about a lot of the 70s bands, specifically, Zappa. He would do so much different shit. Sometimes he released 4 albums in a year, all completely different.
Nothing wrong with that.
Too. That's a good one for modern time. It's like Devin Townsend does stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice to see control everything.
What's that?
It's nice to see labels don't control everything.
Right, exactly.
Like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Devin's, he's a mad scientist too, It's great. I just saw that. Did you see that tour announced?
Yeah, him with Dream
Devin
Theater
Townsend.
and Animals as leaders. Yeah.
I'm like, well, hallelujah. A tour that actually it works. That's great. That's a killer package right there.
It is, but I haven't done LSD in a long time.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. I used to be a really, really big time Dream Theater fan, but I haven't really liked much of their stuff in a long time, man. I love freaking Awake and Images and Words for me. That was it. They always had some cool stuff after that, but it was always, I don't know. It all started to kind of get a little bit repetitive,
Yeah.
Still a great band, obviously, but it just was like, I missed the more formatted stuff, I guess, for them,
Yeah.
No more pull me unders.
No, that's the only one-hit wonder there.
Hey, put them on the map though, kept them alive all this time. So that's great,
It did. I didn't want to ask this before, but I forgot. When we were talking about the Queensryche Rage for Order, what'd you think of the way they looked? Because one of the guys on our show, he called him the transvestite vampires.
Hey, they were doing it before it was hip, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny. They even make fun of it.
Yeah.
It was definitely.
I make fun of it with those poodle hairdos.
Yeah, definitely a little weird, but at the same time, it was supposed to be like this romanticism vampire type of thing, and yeah, I guess it made sense. And when you think of the times, it was the 80s. So did it really matter? Yeah, not really. Was I a huge fan of it? No, but the album made up for that.
Yeah, definitely.
I just remember seeing them opening up for Ozzy, and but then again, at that time, that was the Ultimate Sin tour. So Ozzy he was looking kind of.
Man, Ozzy looked weird. Queensryche looked weird and bluish on that tour, who were trying to look like Duran Duran at the time. 86 was an odd year for a lot of
Yeah. And then here comes freaking Metallica and Slayer. And that's what broke the whole thing down, So, yeah, it's funny. I remember, I still like those bands, but then, we were all getting into Slayer. And then everybody was growing their hair in front of their face and wearing leather coats. And, everything was ripped and got dirty. It got dirty again, instead of getting pretty, it got dirty again, So it needed it. It needed it for sure at the time, So
definitely. All right. Well, Mark, thank you very much for coming on the show. When is there a tour for the Metal Church? Is that coming up?
Yeah, we the first show is June 3rd at Legions of Metal Festival in Chicago. And then the next night we're playing at Token Lounge. We're doing clusters of shows to start. And we're, definitely reviewing tour offers. And next year for sure there'll be some full-on stuff. We had to basically kind of get out there and prove ourselves again, with releasing the record, because obviously no one knew what it was going to sound like or that it was even coming out. So it's kind of hard to plan that far ahead, without giving anything away, because they didn't really want to say anything about it. So it's like when you approach all these festivals, it's like, well, we want to hear it, and what is it and who is it, and it's, if you don't tell them, they're not gonna, they're not gonna pay you umpteen thousands of dollars to play and not even know what they're getting,
Right.
So, so that's why we're doing clusters. We got that, and then I'm doing 2 hometown shows here, and in June 23rd and 24th, and then we do New Jersey the 25th, and we got after that, I think the next week we're doing a couple of Pennsylvania shows, and we're doing so we got some stuff. We're going to Europe for we got 6 shows we're doing there, and some other stuff. So everything's kind of being worked out now, and the full tour will most likely be a full-on tour sometime next year, and we'll be playing every festival next year. And then the Ross Boss tour starts April 28th. And it's called the European tour, but we're playing Germany about 90 times, and we play Netherlands and Denmark. I'm like, I don't think that's a European tour, but we're playing in Europe for we got 3.5 weeks there. So, and then we get some festival stuff in the summer. So
well,
I'm busy. I'm
very busy
back
guy
for a while. So
yeah, see that. Well,
and try to finish that Let Us Pray record in between, and hopefully get to play out with that. Probably not till next year. We're definitely going to do something. We're gonna have to get a whole new lineup, but I got a lot of really cool friends now. So
yeah, definitely. Really cool.
It'll be a cool all-star type of thing we're gonna do for sure. So that'd be fun.
Damn, really cool, man. All right. Well, wish you all the luck with the new Metal Church, and
thanks for having me, guys. Great conversation. You guys got me running, man. Sorry. I was like, woo.
You're the guest, so that's what I like, guest talk. I don't have to think of all the questions, so you're perfect.
Cool.
But again, thank you very much for coming on the show. Is there Marc Lopes site? I know. Marc Lopes website or anything that?
Yeah, I mean, dude, you can just Marc Lopes Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just type it in, you'll find it.
All right. Very cool. All right, everybody. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Guys, stay well. Hopefully see you guys at some of the shows, man.
All right, very cool. Everybody hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Later.
Monet.